Türkiye hükümetinin geride bıraktığımız yıllar boyunca
Over the last couple of years, we have voiced strong allegations about the Turkish government's direct or indirect support for so-called Islamic State. Therefore, we think that the allegations about the oil trade between Turkey and Islamic State are not without basis. The Turkish government has provided concrete logistical support for Islamic State militants in terms of facilitating their flow back and forth into Syria and their training.
Sınırdan daha
You would know that President Erdogan has said, look, I'll go if they can prove that. So you need to come up with evidence. It's easy to say you think it's happening. Where's the evidence?
Ne yazık ki bölgede o kadar yoğun bir kaos ve karmaşa ortamı var ki
Unfortunately, there is such chaos in the region, and this makes it very difficult to investigate and prove allegations of criminal activities. Eyewitness reports are not being accepted as evidence in the court of law. So in answer to your question, no, we as a party don't have concrete evidence to prove the oil trade, but there is a relationship between the Turkish government and Islamic State. This has been going on in front of the eyes of neighbouring countries and people in the region.
Bunu kriminal bir belgeye kanıta.
These allegations, of course, come off a further allegation, and that is that Turkey, the Turkish government, premeditated its attack on a Russian bomber, and that, of course, has escalated the situation between the two countries. I presume you think there may be some truth in that as well.
Türkiye hükümeti Rus uçağının
We don't think that the Turkish government shot down the plane without premeditating it. For some time, the Turkish government has been trying to become more involved in Syria. The increased intervention was bound to happen by shooting down a plane or in other ways. We as a party supported the idea that Turkey should not interfere in the chaos in Syria, at least militarily, because Syria is our neighbour and any intensification of chaos in Syria would affect us directly too. This latest incident involving the shooting down of a Russian plane is linked to Turkey's attempts to have a stronger say in Syria.
What sort of role do you think now Turkey can usefully play in terms of keeping Syrian refugees well housed, well looked after, persuaded that they don't need to, as we've seen in so many occasions for so long now, seek safer haven across much of continental Europe?
Her şeyden önce Türkiye'de Türkiye iç hukukunda
First of all, Turkey should recognise the refugee status of Syrians in Turkey. Failure to recognise them as official refugees prevents Syrians from living a decent life in Turkey. There are around 2.2 million Syrian refugees in Turkey, with only 250,000 of them in camps. The rest try to get by under very adverse conditions, such as homelessness, hunger and extreme poverty, without much legal protection. Those people risk ending up in the hands of people smugglers. This is a human tragedy, and as you know, large numbers of refugees die when they try to cross into Europe by the Aegean Sea. The European Union has just agreed to provide Turkey with funds to help refugees, but we must ensure that this money is spent under the supervision of human rights bodies so that we know it's being used for the benefit of refugees.
Kamplarda resmi olarak konumlandırılmış.
I have one last question to ask you. It feels as if there is an international head of steam building up against IS at the moment. The Germans have just announced their readiness to take part. The British Parliament on Wednesday has a vote on essentially airstrikes or not in Syria. What would your message be to them?
Öncelikle IŞİD'e karşı koalisyonun
An anti-Islamic State coalition has to be unified around a specific target and focused on a unified strategy. No member should be allowed to break the unity of the coalition. For example, Turkey's shooting down of a Russian plane was a significant distraction in the fight against jihadist fascist militants. Such actions are clearly wrong and should be stopped. Another point is that the fight against IS shouldn't just focus on bombing campaigns and airstrikes. It should also focus on helping the local democratic forces fighting IS on the ground. To this end, Kurdish Liberation Forces and the Democratic Union Party in Syria, which is one of the most effective forces against IS, should be formally recognised as a partner in the fight against Islamic State. Those local democratic forces will be there after the airstrikes in Syria are over and Islamic State is degraded, so they should be supported.
Bütün dünya devletleri ve ülkeleri, bütün dünyayı tehdit eden bu insanlık dışı